Good morning. Welcome to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And if you would please join me in the flag salute, will be led this morning by Supervisor Crocker. If you'd remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Take up our Board of Supervisor matters. This morning we'll start with Supervisor Vanderpool.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few items I wanted to go over today. Yesterday I was able to attend the promotional ceremony at the Sheriff's Headquarters for 3 new sergeants, so my congratulations to those 3 gentlemen on their promotion. We had a Water Commission meeting yesterday, and we were definitely missing a wealth of knowledge. Denise England was running late from a different meeting, and so she was not able to be there until the very end. But we did have a great presentation from RMA about the current status of the flood commission in Tulare County, and it's funny talking about a flood this year when we've had such meager precipitation, but you look at last year and the role they played was very important for the different projects as to preventing the impacts of floods. But that presentation was very, very good, so I commend Reed and Ross for making that presentation. I have a retirement board meeting this Wednesday at 8:30. Leadership Tulare with the Chamber of Commerce in Tulare is going to be coming for their County Day Thursday at 11, and I will be presenting along with our CAO, Mr. Spada. I don't know if he knows his calendar as well as I know mine, but Mike, you are presenting. Okay, good. Just want to make sure you knew that. And then there's a KTAAA, Kings Tulare Area Agency on Aging meeting that will be taking place Monday at 10 o'clock here in conference rooms A and B. And following that meeting will be a TCAG meeting at 1 o'clock at the Board of Supervisors. And last thing I will say is go Bruins. We have to play in a play-in game tonight for the NCAA tournament. Not so excited we didn't make the top 64, but we at least made the top 68. Got a little play-in game, and go Bruins. Right, Mr. Ennis?
You're going to need a lot of luck. A lot of luck.
All right. What's that?
The meeting in Hampton.
I thought I had on my
Okay.
calendar that it was at the Board of Supervisors. Maybe
It is.
Hanford?
It's
KTAA?
TCAG is.
Oh, no, I don't know about that.
KTAA?
I don't know about that.
TCAG is.
you can go to Hanford. I'll be here.
I will.
Supervisor Shuck, then.
Okay, well, last Tuesday at the Mental Health Board meeting, which I sit on that, we had a very comprehensive overview of the direct care of mental health services. If anybody's interested, I'm sure we can get you a copy, but that was well received, and I appreciate that very much. We have the demographics of those served, budgets, and what I found interesting was that 64% of expenses were for direct care services for mental health treatment. So we're doing a lot out there, and I think later on, maybe in Mr. Britt's presentation, you may cover some of that also. Jason and I also sat in on a webinar that was held regarding the CSAC, League of California Cities Joint Task Force on Homelessness, and it was just kind of a candid interview with the 2 folks who headed up that task force, and I have some comments about that later. I will also be at the KTAAA meeting next Monday. Tomorrow night, I will be at College of Sequoias participating in a panel discussion on marijuana in Tulare County, so that should be interesting. And this Saturday will be the Visalia, the annual St. Patrick's Parade that Supervisor Crocker and I will be riding in Parade 1. Right, Chief? And I think this is Kyler's first parade, and I have a little gift for him. Although yesterday was my birthday. I have a little something that I think...
Yeah.
I think you'll wear it well.
He can use that on November, too.
There you go. So, and I know all the kids are going to say, look at the
my
leopard
green
on
on.
Yeah, your
Mommy
beard's
anyway, so.
just a little bit big, but it'll
That's
fit.
all right. It'll grow on you.
That's all I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Supervisor Crocker.
Well, I don't have any lucky
Crocker.
charms.
Top of the morning.
But, yeah, absolutely. Don't ask what's in the coffee. Last week I attended the San Joaquin Valley Policy Council's Valley Voice trip. We had an opportunity. We have 2 individuals from each of the 8 San Joaquin Valley counties. We had the opportunity to meet with the new director of Caltrans, with the new director of the High Speed Rail Authority, Brian Kelly. Take me serious, Steve. I think it was overall, it was, fairly positive. I mean, there's definitely challenges for each of those agencies. And with our local delegation, it's kind of more of the same. I think a lot of them know and understand what's going on. But I still think it's a worthwhile trip to make sure that they understand some of the nuances that we're dealing with, specifically in regards to transportation, but we also had fairly lengthy discussions on water as well. Tonight, I will be traveling back to Sacramento for an RCRC board meeting tomorrow, and we'll also have some meetings that have been scheduled for some SB 623, the budget trailer bill regarding safe drinking water, after the board meeting. And Supervisor Ennis and I will be attending the California Council of Governments annual conference in Monterey. I'll be attending that after the RCRC board meeting. And Thursday, there's also a conference call on the CSAC Ag Committee is going to be having, and I will be on that in support of the Merrill Water Bond. That's one of the discussion points. So that's at 2:30.
Thank you, Mr. Crocker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please,
I
Mr.
think
Ennis.
it would be more fitting if he was a leprechaun.
Maybe I am.
Maybe we had our first Amish person on the board.
He'd make a good leprechaun. Anyway, like Supervisor Crocker said, we'll be attending the CalCog meeting in Monterey and be meeting with the other counties that make up the valley and working towards, I think our number one aim is to try to help each one of the counties get Highway 99 to 6 lanes up and down this valley. I know we're working on our end, but trying to help everybody, because that would be a great deal if you could take off from here to Sacramento and never have to worry about going down to 2 lanes. It would be very, very beneficial to everybody. But the governor seems to think we need high-speed rail, so it'd be just a drop in the bucket to do that if we weren't spending all this money, the billions, on high-speed rail. I don't want to get on that this morning. There may be some supporters out there, but boy, I'm sure not one of them. I just wanted you to know that. So anyway, then we do have TCAG on Monday, which I chair, and so looking forward to the trip to Monterey and looking forward to meeting with the folks over there on CalCog. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Tomorrow evening, if you have nothing better to do, I will be on the Valley Public Radio on a panel on air quality. And we have an air quality meeting at San Joaquin Valley APCD. We'll be in Fresno on Thursday. Monday after TCAG, I'll be racing up to Fresno for a meeting with Mayor Brand of Fresno, extending an invitation to have the city of Fresno join the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority, which they've been major players. So I think that's all we have in our board meeting, our supervisor matters this morning. So we'll go on to item 2, which is a recognition of Bill Harrison upon his retirement from the Tulare County Information and Communications Technology Department for his many years of service to Tulare County. And I believe, Peg, you're going to make some introductory remarks. Great.
I usually don't have a whole lot to say. A few more words today. Bill Harrison's career has spanned over 26 years with Tulare County. He began in February of '92 as a staff service analyst with the King's Tulare Agency on Aging. He was instrumental in developing an in-home meal program that provided 21 meals per week to participants. He also formed a partnership with smaller towns and communities in the 2 counties to provide activities to low-income retired seniors that included overnight trips to the coast and Disneyland. This was where he implemented the first decentralized email system in the county, connecting 18 senior centers across 2 counties. He went on to become the new HHSA Management Information Systems Area User Support Services Manager. That's a mouthful. In October of '95, here he supervised the help desk, business analysts, training, programming, and IT purchasing. He became the first county employee to have an office at Government Plaza. There's an honor. He automated the systems for veterans and public guardian and represented 17 counties on the State of California Electronic Signature and Government Committee. Nothing you did has short titles, did it? He promoted to the Director of Management Information Systems, where he chaired the annual toy drive and Children's Holiday Festival for clients of CWS for 5 years. He was instrumental in the forming of Friends of Tulare County. He was a critical player in moving health, CWS, human services, and HHSA administration from paper systems to an automated system. He introduced new technology to the county with the integrated computer and phone call center, remote business continuity, and mobile command center with satellite communications. He was the EOC coordinator for Year 2K, 9/11, and several flood responses. During this time, he was certified as a project management professional. In December of 2007, Bill joined the newly formed Tulare County Information and Communications Technology Department as the assistant director. He went on working to improve technology throughout the county. This was interrupted from July of 2008 to November of 2009, when he was recalled to active duty in the U.S. Navy and was deployed to Afghanistan. On his return, he supervised the county's cybersecurity team. As an assistant director, he was acting director in my absence. He supported the development of the project management office and supervised the construction of the new Blue Ridge radio tower. He was able to lay out an improved funding model for the department, and by partnering with Eric Coyne, they were able to develop high-speed internet bandwidth in many rural areas of the county. It has been a pleasure to work with Bill Harrison. He has served the county and his country admirably, and I wish him the very best in his retirement.
Well, you know, Bill, it's great to pass this on to you, and the late Jim Maples would say to honoring employees like Bill that the highest honor the county could provide them with is a seal of the county. And he held it in a very high regard until a former Health and Human Services director referred to it as the giant cup.
We're not going to go there.
Cup platter, or whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah, right. Anyway, but it is very attractive. And it does say that this is presented to William G. Harrison, ICT Assistant Director, in appreciation of your years of service and dedication to the community and to Tulare County and to our nation, February 18th, 1992 through March 30th, 2018. Thanks, Bill.
That director did hire me, but I do hold this in high esteem. I'm very appreciative of this plaque. I'm appreciative of the support I've received over the 26 years from the board, from all of my fellow county employees, but I particularly want to call out Peg Yates, who has been a friend since she arrived here 15 years ago, Sabrina Robinson, and Jay Jones, who have been my partners in crime since 1995, and Ceci Garces, who started with me as a summer youth. Who knows how long ago. But I also want to say that I appreciate the opportunity and the honor of serving the citizens of this county. Some of my best moments have been in direct service with KTAAA and with CWS in the foster program. But thank you.
Next, we'd like to honor another of our retirees that has many years of service from the County Counsel's Office, for Clint Sims, and I believe Deanne Peterson is going to make some comments on
Well, I guess I am.
Sims.
Right.
It's with regret that I am losing Clint. He started with the county in, I think, 1987. And he worked for about 14 years for the Public Defender's Office. Before that, he was a JAG. He came over to the county council's office, and he began working in what we call land and resources. And so anything and everything that you see on the board's agenda is done by the resource team. And Clint has had his hand in so very many of the large projects that the county has faced and is facing, having to do with dairies, with water, with land use, solar. And he was always a quiet and dependable supervisor, shepherding all of this through the Board of Supervisors. He's been very good at establishing relationships with the supervisors. That isn't always an easy thing to do with the CAO's office. I think I will really miss him. Some of the things that I will remember, we've gone through the remodel of our building. Clint has never met a piece of paper that he didn't want to copy and save at least 3 times. I feel sorry for the person that's going to take over that office. We have thought about having a funeral for his tie. And I think maybe we should frame it for the boardroom. I'm hoping that the next phase of his life brings him much joy. I'm a little worried because every weekend I get a text message from him saying, "I'm bored." But I would just like to say thank you so much, Clint, for your public service. We really appreciate it, and we'll miss you.
Well, to know Clint is to know his tie. And I will say that over the years, you know how people say, if I just didn't buy that cup of coffee, I could save so much money. When I think about how much money Clint has saved on not having to buy more than one tie, it's really quite something. I'm sure that's why he's retiring a little bit young. But Clinton O. Sims II, I have never heard the whole thing put together like that. Chief Deputy County Counsel, in appreciation of your years of service and dedication to the community and to Tulare County, July 27th, 1987 through March 13th, 2018. It's quite a run. And thank you very much for your years of service, Clint.
Well, I do have a few words. But before I start them, I just wanted to remind Supervisor Vanderpool that UVA is seated number 1. A small school in Omaha called Creighton is seated number 8. Okay. They don't have to play it. They earn that way.
Way to go, Clint.
Wow. Hopefully my kids are listening. They're in Chicago, and I tried emailing them how to do it. But when I started here 30 years ago, I was 30 pounds lighter, and I was as tall as John Hess. I wanted to hook you guys. I think I did. I'm not 6'7" now, and I'm not sure if work or putting Rugrats through college or school made me this height, but from it, I have 2 lawyers and a historian. At work, all I ever wanted to do was be a good lawyer. I wanted my clients to know I was doing my best. As a public defender, I could not write the facts for my clients, and boy, did they do some crazy stuff.
But I could try to create confusion for the trier fact, and that is called reasonable doubt. When I came to the county counsel's office, I never dreamed I'd be a chief deputy. I followed some amazing people. Phil Mays, who was my mentor, I still think about him, may he rest in peace. Jim Lines, and a guy named Mike Spada. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. And another legend, Julia Roberts. They were all big shoes to fill. The county counsel's office has always amazed me at the quality of legal talent that they've had. I'm proud to have been part of that. It has been an honor and a pleasure serving the county. But enough of that touchy-feely stuff. You guys want to know what's going to happen with the time. Well, I'm going to be on a fixed income soon, and every little bit helps. So I got some raffle tickets.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm going to raffle off the tie. The
We have to run that by
price,
county council.
the price of the tie is, I take it from my Chicago days, how much you got? Again, thank you very much for letting me serve and as a employee of the county. It really has been an honor. And I leave here with bittersweet emotions. Thank you.
I would definitely like to give my colleagues an opportunity to speak to both of these gentlemen, and so I'll start, Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair. I first of all have to say what an amazing set of careers between both Bill and Clint. Thank you so much for your dedication to Tulare County. Both of you have worked so hard to, in your given areas of expertise, your professional assignments, you've worked so hard to deliver great service both internally and externally to the people of Tulare County. Bill, I thank you for your service to our country, as well as your service here to Tulare County, and congratulations on making it to the rank that you did, and the same thing for Clint. Clint, I'm very proud of you in making it to the rank that you were at, and I've enjoyed working with you in the 10 years that I've been here, but I think losing these two gentlemen really illustrates something that we are going to be dealing with more and more in Tulare County and all government agencies, and that is the loss of institutional knowledge, the loss of experience, the loss of valuable mentors. You look between these two individuals, and we're losing over 50 years of experience with two people leaving. It's just, how do you replace that? There is definitely going to be a huge void left in both of your departments, but I know that you are both leaders and you're both mentors to those who you've worked with in your departments, and I have great confidence that because of your love for your jobs and your love for Tulare County, that you have imparted as much knowledge as you can to those individuals, and they will be able to collectively fill the gap that you're going to be leaving. So, as I always like to say to those who are retiring, may the best years of your life be ahead of you, and hopefully our paths will cross again in the future. Congratulations on your retirements.
I think Chairman Vanderpool summed it up very eloquently for both of you. I mean, former Chairman Vanderpool. Sorry, Steve, you got demoted. I've only been here a year, but both of you, I think, as he said, your years of service here, I think it speaks well of the county in general that somebody wants to stay working here for that many years. It's a good thing. Bill, I'm sorry that we're just now remodeling Government Plaza. You were the first one in there, and now we're remodeling it as you leave.
It was pretty new when he moved in.
Yeah, it was. And Clint, I'm just glad that, you referenced John and your height. I'm just glad that John's not wearing the same pair of socks throughout his career, his colorful socks throughout his career here. So I wish you both the best. Thank you for your time here.
Supervisor Crocker?
Yeah, I echo all the comments that were made. I really appreciate the partnership that Bill, that you've given to the board, and whatever requests or information, IT's always been there, and you've been a very integral part. And the same thing with Clint, that you have been involved just in the last year on many of the tougher issues that the board has to take on, and I appreciate the candidness that both of you have been able to provide and be able to help us make better decisions as a board. And I think that's really it's very important that we get the best information we can so that we can make better decisions for all of the county. And I appreciate that, and as well as your dedication both to your country as well. I think it's very telling that we have two great, outstanding individuals that are going to be retiring that also served honorably for our country, and I thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I'd also like to say a few words. Bill, thank you. You've probably forgotten more than I know about high-tech. I'm not a high-tech guy. I don't tweet. I don't text. I do forward a few emails once in a while to people, but I'm the old guy that gets on the phone and wants to talk to somebody personally. But thank you for your service. You've made our IT program a big success back when we privatized it, and I know that you'll be very happy in the future being able to do what you want to do. Because people ask me, I'm going to be retiring at the end of the year, what are you going to do? And I said, whatever I want to do. So anyway, thank you for your years of service and your knowledge. Clint, what can I say? I mean, man, to take a tie like you have and make it coordinate with every sport coat and everything that you wear, that is amazing. But he did tell me one day that he does have a backup tie. It's a bow tie. But nothing was said about that one. But Clint, thank you. It's been fun. You know, I've enjoyed you. Hey, I've enjoyed you even in closed session, you know, when you're sitting back there behind me and I'm wondering, what's he thinking? Anyway, Clint, thank you for all your years and your expertise. Now go out and enjoy yourself and enjoy a glass of red wine once in a while. I know you like your red wine, and I do too. So enjoy your red wine, enjoy your retirement, and good luck to the both of you. Thank you.
Well, I think everything pretty much has been said, and I certainly echo those comments. The one difference, I suppose, is my tenure on the board is one that has caused me to come into contact with both of you for a longer period of time and develop a friendship with you both. Bill, as is the nature of IT, it's more of a backroom type of a thing, and so we normally don't see you as often, but you certainly have given us good service and instructing us on issues before your department and concerns that you've had about security and so forth, and on that diligent work that you've done there. I know that our IT is just so critical to our mission in Tulare County, and it increasingly so. And as we look at how to get more efficiencies out of our employees in our departments, IT is really front and center, and I know you've been a very big part of that. And I will miss you, and I will miss, as I've missed those people who've left before you and other departments and positions, because you can't be in this place and not establish relationships and friendships, and they don't have to end. It's just that the opportunities of interaction are somewhat more limited. Clint, I've really come to enjoy your sense of humor. You're a character, I should say, but you have great character, and very much appreciated. And I do hope, I know that retirement can be a difficult time for some people. I know people who fail at retirement. They do it for a while and they go, well, I got to go back to work. This just isn't working for me. But I hope in your case that you're going to find those things of interest that maybe you haven't thought about before. Have you thought about taking up finger painting, or something to kind of get in touch with your inner self? But I mean, I do hope you find something that will take your time. I know you will be sought after by people when they see an attorney of your caliber that's available. Look out, because they're going to want you on every kind of organization. But I do hope you enjoy your time and vacation with your family, and I too want to thank both of you for your wonderful years of service to this county. And it's people like you who make this county what it is and allows us to progress and to make it enjoyable to come to work every day. So thank you very much, and we'll conclude our comments. And I know you have a lot of friends here. They probably want to leave the building now, so we'll give them an opportunity to do so. Thanks for being here today. At this time, we'll take up our public comments. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters that are within our jurisdiction but not on today's agenda are welcome to come forward. And I have a request from Nancy Hawkins from the Parks Advisory Committee. Good morning. If you could just pull that back around.
Before those two leave, there are a couple openings on the Parks Advisory Commission.
Atta girl, Nancy.
We could always use some great people. My name is Nancy Hawkins. I live at 3301 East Douglas here in Visalia. I've been a member of the Parks Advisory Committee since it started probably 3 years ago. I missed the opportunity to speak last week after your support of the advisory committee, and Supervisor Sheklian reminded me that I could come back today, so here I am. I wanted to remind you that we have 10 hidden gems in Tulare County, and those are our 10 county parks. All the way from Balch Park with its giant sequoias and its fishing and its camping, to Cutler, where you have access to the St. Johns River, and of course, lots of small community parks and the tiny Main Street Park that's just right here behind us. But of course, the hidden gem, or the gem of gems, is Mooney Grove. And I just want to remind you what a great place that is. Can you tell I'm a great park advocate here, too? So Mooney Grove with its giant oak trees and its two great museums, and the end of the trail statue, as well as we'll add the feral cats and the geese and the peacocks that are there too. I have listened to people in Pixley and at Mooney Grove, and I hear over and over again it is so important for them to see that these parks are well maintained. They want to be able to drink the water at the parks, to use the restrooms, to sit at the picnic tables and not have the rebar poking out the ends. They want to make sure that the arbors are safe and not going to fall down on them. And so I want to thank you so much for your financial support for the parks. And of course, there was a great article after last week's meeting about the financial support. But my reminder to you guys is don't forget about us when financial times get tight. The past 2 years, we've done a lot of maintenance at the parks, but the 15 years before that, we didn't do very much, and we're reaping the consequences now. So thank you so much for letting me speak to you. Remember those parks, and they're truly the gems of Tulare County. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Very appreciative of your comments this morning. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we will close the public comment. You have one. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Alberto Aguilar. I live at 1925 East Alpine Avenue in Tulare, California. Chairman Steve Worley, Vice Chairman Carl Crocker, Supervisor Amy Shaklin, Supervisor Mike Ennis, Supervisor Pete Vanderpool, County Administrative Officer Mike Spada, County Counsel Deanne Peterson, and Interim Chief Clerk Melinda Benton. I come before you today as a private citizen to address my concerns relative to your appointment of an individual to the Tulare Public Cemetery District Board of Trustees who does not meet the statutory requirements in accordance with the laws that govern public cemetery districts in the state of California. Section 9022 parenthesis A in the parenthesis of the California Health and Safety Code states, quote, each person appointed by a board of supervisors to be a member of a board of trustees shall be a voter in the district, end quote. The application form that the county administration has been using for members of the public to apply to become a board member of a public cemetery district indicates the only qualification as a person being a registered voter. However, there is a difference between being a registered voter and a voter of the district. Up until the beginning of this year, a 17-year-old could register to vote as long as that individual would be 18 years of age by the next election. And that's on your form, election form, okay? Although that individual met the criteria to become a registered voter, that individual did not meet the criteria to be activated as a voter in the district. Most recently, the state changed the rules, whereas now a 16-year-old individual can become a registered voter, but still has to wait until they reach the 18 to be a voter. If you meet the requirements and are a U.S. citizen, and you live at, say, 2100 of East Merritt Avenue in Tulare, and you become a registered voter in, say, 2013, then you move to San Luis Obispo. When the register of voters sends you a ballot, the Postal Service will notify the registrar's office that you no longer live at that address, and your voter status ceases. Said differently, you no longer are a voter in the district, and you will have to re-register again. If you read the grand jury report of last year, it's titled, "Did Your Vote Count?" That information is there. I'm requesting that the board make the necessary corrections to the application form and remedy the situation regarding your appointment of an individual to the Tulare Public Cemetery District unlawfully. Let's not waste taxpayers' dollars in taking this to court when you have the ability to go ahead and remedy the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Any other public comments? We will close the public comment period, bring it back to the board for our consent calendar. Item number 5 is going to be pulled for later. It'll have to be brought back at a later date. Item 6, and there's a correction of the spelling. Capital should be capital with a C-A-P-I-T-A-L. Any other corrections to that particular?
Yeah, there was mention of east needs to be, or what? Yeah,
Oh.
East needs to be west. West Goshen is west.
West Scotia is west of Visalia, yes. Okay. With that correction, are there any other items that need to be pulled and handled separately by board members?
Item 19.
Item 19 will be pulled, handled for separate consideration. Any other items?
Mr. Chair, if there's nothing further to be pulled by board members or members of the public, I would move for the balance of the consent calendar, less item 5, which will be continued, and item 19, which will be heard now, and
Second.
the corrections mentioned by you.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Vanderpool, seconded by Supervisor Ennis. Please cast your votes. Votes are unanimous. Take up item 19. Capital asset purchase of IA Pro Blue Team software. Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Keith Douglas, Assistant Sheriff for Sheriff Mike Boudreau, Sheriff's Office. So Supervisor Crocker, our IA Pro Blue Team software is an advanced tracking method to track complaints and also internal affairs investigations. We're currently using a menagerie of Excel spreadsheets and outdated access databases. There is no statistical reporting features in this. This particular software is used by over 80 agencies in California alone. But it does it has advanced analytics in it. It allows us to see trends as they're forming, such as traffic accidents, to where we can do predictive and preventable action, whether it be through driver's training, whatever. It has special components for different levels of use of force, including taser, canine usage, pursuits, anything like that. It's the old adage, the more data we can throw at it, the better data we get out of it. This is a necessary step that we think is necessary to be able to hold us more. We can track our stuff. As the more people we get, the more uses of force inevitably we will have. And this isn't just for patrol. A lot of people think, oh, this is just handled on the operations side. No, this also tracks everything in detentions as well.
My question, it sounds like a great program, and what I read looks like it's a good expense, but it didn't have, it said that the upkeep costs, the maintenance fees would be waived initially, but I didn't find what the ongoing cost would be for the program. So that was my question for that.
Let me see if I have that.
I know that the $75,000 is for the initial investment of that.
It is. Lieutenant Stello, do we have the annual maintenance? I will have that for you momentarily, sir.
We'll have to get that back to you.
Yeah, I can have it before the end of session.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Keith. All right. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Crocker, second by Supervisor Ennis. Please cast your votes. Votes are unanimous. We'll now take up our untimed items. Item number 20 is a request from the Health and Human Services Agency to approve the new classification of Homeless Initiatives Program Coordinator and the attached at-will job specification. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, CEO, and County Council. Jason Britt, Health and Human
Jason
Services.
T. Britt. I want you to
Yes.
point that out. I'm going to start
Jason
using
T.
Pete J. on
T.
all my
Britt.
stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
when it's
T. Britt.
written,
There
T.
you go.
Yes. Agency Director for Health and Human Services. Thank you for allowing me to come before you and spend a few minutes today to ask for approval of a Homeless Initiatives Programs Coordinator. And before we do that, I just wanted to set a little bit of a context of our homeless situation and what's been happening. Although this is not a comprehensive report about homelessness, it is just sort of some facts and figures that we work with. We'll talk a little bit about the homeless programs that the Health and Human Services Agency operates, and as a result of the sheer number of programs that we operate, I hope you will lead you to the conclusion that we need a meaningful coordination, which is the request before you today. So just very quickly at a national and state level, the homelessness trend continues to grow, reversing really a 16% decrease during the 2007-2015 years. In our local annual point-in-time count that's conducted by the Kings Tulare Area or Homeless Alliance, get them confused between the area of agency, there's approximately 666 homeless individuals in Tulare County, and of course, that's a caveat with that's a point-in-time, one-day snapshot who we could find on that day. That does not necessarily mean that is the exhaustive population. But we do use that number as sort of a barometer to help us move forward in our work. We do know that more than half are unsheltered, which means they don't have any place to go, including don't have an emergency shelter, and that's been a 20% increase since 2009. What we do know about the 666 that were counted at that time is the vast majority are located within our cities. You'll see the breakdown there. I won't go into that, and all cities exceed national average, and Visalia exceeds the state average. An interesting fact, the Kings Tulare Homeless Alliance has concluded their 2018 count but have not released their figures. However, they did release a figure that this year they asked an additional question about where people came from. Were they originally from this area? Did they move here? And over 70% of the unsheltered or homeless individuals counted this year indicated that they are from either Tulare or Kings County. So again, it just kind of sets another sort of homeless context. Some of the issues that the Homeless Task Force, along with Supervisor Suckland and the task force, have been sort of wrestling with is a reluctance of landlords to rent to homeless individuals. There's a lot of reluctance to accept the housing vouchers that are from HUD. So the Homeless Alliance does receive several, I would say about $1.5 million a year from HUD to shelter people, rapid rehouse people, and that's done through a voucher system, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to place people with those vouchers as a result of really the housing stock being very tight in the state, and that includes Tulare County. Right now, the Kings Tulare Homeless Alliance is estimating that from the time they assess somebody into the system and they are able to place them into housing is exceeding 383 days. As a result of some of these challenges, we continue to see low-income individuals become increasingly at risk for homelessness. There's also the Tulare County Housing Authority has reported that they are only successful in finding housing for 1 out of every 4 individuals that they provide a voucher to in Tulare County. So, from a state context, there are approximately 202 million extremely low or very low income renters competing for what's really about 665,000 affordable homes. That's a state statistic. So that's kind of a context. Didn't want to get too involved in that, but just sort of set the context of and moving on to what the agency is able to do. The agency has for many years and continues to focus on homeless prevention and assisting those who are at risk for homelessness. We do have a few programs as we walk through the slides that help people sort of in the intervention phase, meaning once they've already become homeless. But really our efforts are to keep people either housed or to get them rehoused into whatever array of programs that we offer. And so we serve fewer chronic homeless individuals, but we do play a large role in prevention. So if you'll just indulge me for a few minutes to walk through some of the programs, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know your time today, but I thought it very important for the board to at least see a menu of what we are doing to assist the homeless in Tulare County. Of course, at the core, we have our safety net programs that help individuals. These CalFresh, CalWorks, Medi-Cal help individuals who are working and allow them to keep more of their money to pay towards rent while using some of our program safety net services to buy food and seek medical care. But in addition to the safety net programs, we have a wider range of housing homeless serving programs. And they typically fall into two categories: housing support and outreach, and we'll see those today. So our first, we want to talk about the mental health. So we serve through the FSP Flex Funding Program around 250 individuals a year, unduplicated, to help who are also suffering from mental ill challenges, to help them remain either housed or not, or prevent them from being homeless. And that's through our mental health branch. Additionally, our mental health program has transitional and permanent supportive housing units. And as we all know, mental health consumers at the severe mentally ill, the highest level of illness, tend to be at more of a risk to be homeless than those at the lower spectrum. So we serve about 179 last year, the previous year, 174 this year. And as you could see by the $2.26 million that we expended, it's not a cheap proposition. But that funds 53 augmented boarding care facility for adults, which is our TLC, 28-bed transitional independent living facilities for adults at our CLC, 20 transitional beds facilities for transitional age youth from 18 to 24, and 22 permanent beds for living facilities for adults we call ETAC. So these serve clients who are homeless or at risk of being homelessness, meets diagnostic criteria, and has had acute hospitalization within the last year. Through our state CalWorks homeless program, we're able to serve roughly between 23 and 2,500 families annually, and this is countywide. This is not specific to any city or jurisdiction. It's countywide, and that is fully subvented through our CalWorks program. And in 16-17, we spent about $1.2 million, and this year through January, we're on track to spend more than that. We've already spent almost $1 million through January, so that's halfway through the year. So we're on track to outpace what we did in fiscal year 16 and 17. Again, these are individuals who are eligible for CalWorks, who find themselves homeless. These folks actually have to be homeless, and the definition of homeless is without basically a fixed place to sleep. And so we provide them with up to 16 days of temporary housing in a motel or sometimes in a shelter, and then we help them find permanent housing within their income range. We also started, we also have our CalWorks Housing Support Program, which is, again, similar to our assistance program, but it's a little different, really focusing towards those that are in our Welfare to Work program. And again, we've spent about we've spent roughly $300,000 a year on that program and help about 50 families.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
quickly, when you use these numbers, are these the amounts that actually are going out to the people, or is this what's in the entire program? So that
This is the entire program. This is cost for administration. This is cost to help them with their deposit or first month's rent or whatever the program requirements are. So I appreciate that question, but yes, this is the spin for the entire program. One of the things that we do know about homeless assistance programs is that it requires a lot of one-on-one intensive case management, so that tends to get very expensive as well. So a good note there. Moving on again to our a newer program that the state brought to bear in 17-18. Again, this one's just getting started. We've helped a couple of families there, but this is going to be another program that's again fairly new to HHSA, but it's showing promise, and hopefully we'll be able to assist more people with permanent and temporary housing. And then we have a lot of smaller programs. We have our GAP program, which really is focused towards our foster youth who are aging out. We want to keep them from falling into the homeless trap. We have rental assistance from our child welfare program for youth who are facing or at risk for homelessness. Again, this is ages 18 to 20 who have been through our ILP program, and we do serve them and help them before they turn 21. So again, as you know, it's another population aging out of foster care, very at risk for homelessness, and we're able to help them stay housed and not fall into the trap. Additionally, we have our PATH grant, which is really about outreach and engaging individuals into homeless assistance. We've contracted this with Kingsview, who is doing a phenomenal job with the grant. We spend about $170,000, and this is for all staff time. There is some related ancillaries, but it's mostly staff time, because one of the difficulties with serving individuals who are at risk for homelessness, chronic homeless, or even suffering from mental illness is they have to choose to participate, and they have to choose to want to be assisted. We have no mechanism in the law or under the Constitution to force people to do anything. We do have a small law under the 5150, but that's really reserved for individuals who are of grave harm to themselves or others, and not just individuals who are homeless. But the PATH group, this group is who really focuses on people who are already homeless, who suffer from mental illness, and their job is to try to engage these folks into services. So they work a little bit with the HOPE officers. They go out and they find the homeless individuals living at the river or living under the freeway or wherever they take shelter for the night, and they really try to engage them into getting into programs to help them. We have a new program that's also came online that's similar to PATH. We call it the ROAD program. But again, this is another effort to engage individuals into services, not just getting them a house or a place to live, but engaging them into mental health treatment, taking their treatment seriously, and being engaged in that treatment. And then again, we have a smattering of other, smaller programs as our diversion program, our CWS emergency housing program, and transitional housing program. But again, this is all how we support the community and support our county in trying to prevent those who are at risk from being homeless. And then finally, we have our foster care emergency fund, which is kind of a backup to some of the earlier funds I talked about. And then we also have a very small project that the state pays for to help subsidize rent for individuals who are suffering from HIV. So with that, some other things we're also doing as part of our efforts to address the homelessness in Tulare County is we formed the task force, the joint task force with the cities and the county. And I think that even though we've just been doing a lot of educating, and I don't want to give a report for the task force, but as long as we've been learning a lot and being educated a lot about the issue of homelessness, but I think it's been a great collaboration so far to get the city's perspectives at the table, to get the county's perspectives at the table, to get everyone's perspectives and really sort of wrestle through all of these issues to try to come up with some way to move forward. So as a part of that, we hosted our homeless summit last year in 2017. We're on the cusp of hiring a consulting firm to come in and assist the task force in creating sort of a plan forward. And the agency is funding that cost at around $30,000. We expect that to cost. And then we also contributed $25,000 to the Kings Tulare Homeless Alliance because they were able to get philanthropic contributions from a foundation to help with landlord mitigation, and they got a dollar for dollar match on our contribution.
Jason, could I add
Yes,
something just
absolutely.
Regarding the consulting firm for with the homeless task force? When we talk about that plan, a lot of times we hear about like the Alliance has done a 10-year plan and all. We're looking at a 6 to 12-month plan, something that can be done more immediately than long term.
And our consultants are individuals who have been working with the city and county of Sacramento, which has really been wrestling with a lot of these issues, and they're very results oriented. And so we're hoping that some of their expertise and some of their guidance will help us in that. So appreciate those points, Supervisor. Additionally, we support the Homeless Alliance by funding a portion of their management information and housing navigator supports. Again, this is the Alliance, I think, has done a good job at really knowing who the individuals are that are homeless in Tulare County and really doing a good assessment on them. They know who wants to get into housing. They know who may not want to get into housing. And so I think we have a fairly good idea of who they are. It's just really getting the resources available and the units to open up to make that impact. And then, of course, we get involved in all other kinds of things, helping out, going down to St. John's River and St. Paul's and trying to help connect people to services as they gather there because they have no other places to go. And then the last thing I want to kind of talk about is, or not last, but legislative advocacy is the agency through the California Welfare Directors Association. We proposed a legislation, AB 1921. We now have a sponsor. It's being carried by the association, so it's not directly from the county. The welfare directors decided to support as a whole, our idea of allowing CalWORKs housing assistance to be used for shared housing situations. So currently, if you're in our CalWORKs assistance program, we cannot pay your rent or your deposit for sort of a roommate situation or a rooming situation. And we find that this would be able to open up more opportunities for individuals if they were able to share housing either with other clients of the program or with just other individuals willing to rent to them. We're also engaged in a pilot project with Kent State University, which we are out creating spatial video geonarratives, which is a fancy word for video interviews. And what spatial video and geonarratives is an emerging groundbreaking research methodology that was tested and tried on Skid Row, and we are fortunate to have the founder of that research working with us. And what it does is it allows us to go and interview homeless individuals in their wherever they are at, to understand what they really need to move from their situation to a different situation. And what we can get from that is we could also GPS map where people stay, so we can over time know where people kind of hang out. And at the same time, we could also it also provides us with themes of data and information about, well, if everyone says they need this, well, maybe we need to be looking at that to help solve some of this issue. And so we feel very fortunate that at no cost, Kent State University and their research group is helping us with that pilot project, and we'd be happy to bring that here to share our results. We're also in the process of negotiating an MOU with the Visalia Police Department to send case managers out with their HOPE team to do similar to what we do with our PATH grant and ROAD grant, which is to engage and link individuals with behavioral health and substance abuse services in an effort to try to move them to a better place. And we're hoping that MOU will be wrapped up fairly soon, and we can start that 18-month pilot project to see how that goes and see if there's any results based on that, and whether or not we can expand that to other jurisdictions. Additionally, we just got awarded another allocation of $291,000 for the next 3 years to specifically target individuals who are with disabilities who may be at risk for homelessness. And we'll be working with our APS, our Adult Protective Services, and our aging programs to really ensure we support that population, because that is the elderly and the disabled are another population that's rapidly becoming homeless due to the cost of housing statewide. And then, I know it's long, I'm sorry. We are expanding our housing, supportive and permanent housing for our mental health clients. So I talked earlier about our CLC and TLC and all of our projects for supportive housing. Porterville is moving forward with 16 more beds. Tulsa's a 20-bed supportive housing unit. They're both planned to open this year. We also got notification from the Housing Authority last week that there may be some opportunity to expand the Porterville site, so stay tuned for that, and to expand some of our Visalia sites. So we are actively working with the Housing Authority, actively seeking more supportive and permanent housing to treat the mentally ill and to prevent them from being homeless. With all of that, I think that really kind of lays out my case for the need for meaningful coordination. I don't want to suggest that we're not meaningfully coordinating today, but as you know, we could always do better. And so, as you can see, we provide a wide range of supportive services through various providers, funding sources, and programs. There is continually changing legislative and policy at all levels of government with this right now. The state has a number of bills. The feds are looking at a number of things, and it would really be in our best interest to have somebody in a high-level management position really kind of tracking all of those things. Having a coordinator, an individual, greatly increases coordination efforts within local jurisdictions. It also increases efficiency and effectiveness. It reduces duplication, leverages resources, increases access, and a potential savings of revenue and resources. Many jurisdictions are moving to these types of coordinator positions as they face the complexities of a response to the homeless challenge, and we're no different. This homeless coordinator is proposed to be an at-will, high-level management position in the executive team of HHSA, reporting directly to the agency director to coordinate and streamline not only of the HHSA programs internally, but also to work collaboratively with other departments, to function as a liaison between the agency, cities, the Homeless Alliance, and again, go back to, we know of at least 24 counties and cities have appointed such a type of coordinator to really wrangle all of the players and all of the resources around this response. This person will also hopefully utilize data to improve our systems, identify and apply for homeless funding opportunities, monitor all the relevant policy and legislative changes, and form short-term and long-term collaborative strategies to address homelessness. And I would like to take a quote out of the newly released CSAC League of California Cities Joint Homelessness Task Force report is no single city or county has the resources to solve homelessness on its own. It clearly is a joint effort. I'm proud that we started our task force as a joint effort. Many jurisdictions did not, and they're having to sort of reinvent themselves because they were set up more as us against them. And so I'm proud that we saw the need to really collaborate from the beginning, and I think it's working well. With all of that, I would request that the board approve the new classification of the Homeless Initiatives Program Coordinator and the attached at-will job specification, approve the necessary budget adjustments, and approve the attached personnel resolution adding this position to the agency's allocation. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, before I go to the other board members, Jason, one thing I guess I was surprised that the numbers of the different programs that are in place currently and coming on board to deal with this issue, and the point that you made, and I asked you about the funding and how each one of them has its own administrative overhead and costs, it would seem like there might be some duplication of costs that could be, I mean, almost be better off if they were block granting funds to the county and allowing us to determine how best to use those funds. But I guess the bottom line for me is programs are programs, but how effective are they? And I mean, so I would very much appreciate having you come back, at some point in time and give us kind of an update about what is the effectiveness of these programs. I mean, when we recognize that homelessness is a dynamic process, and so you may help this person today and along comes another person tomorrow, but are we making progress with this person over here, the initial people? Are we seeing people being able to be helped out of this, and what numbers, what the categories? I think I read the other day down in Southern California that over 50% of the homelessness there is directly related to economics. So it's not about mental health, it's not about drug dependency, it's just about they just don't have any money and there's no place that they can afford to stay. Right. So, I mean, I don't know what it's like for us in Tulare County, but I think from my perspective, oftentimes we look at these programs, which are state and federal type programs that we're administering, but at the same time we do have empathy and sympathy and compassion for these people, and I would like to know, are we making a difference? That's always a concern that we have, is that we can throw money at something, but at the end of the day, is it really making a meaningful difference in people's lives? So that's just my comments. Other questions or comments? Supervisor Vanderpool?
I would just make a few comments. One of the things that we've really seen through mental health, since that's a specific subject area that I'm fairly familiar with, having served on the mental health board for as long as I did, seeing what housing does for mental health consumers and really the stabilization and kind of the lift me up and the empowering effect that that has. I have great confidence in the housing and what that can provide to a homeless individual, whether it is because of economics or some other issue. So that's a very key component, and it's unfortunate that placing homeless individuals into housing, supported or not, is such a difficult thing. 1 in 4, I think you said, is what
Correct.
We can do here, or what we're currently doing here in Tulare County, and that's very unfortunate. But I have great confidence that this person will further, or this position will further the collaboration that's taking place between the cities in our county and the county. I think that you said it very well when you said that it was a collaborative effort in forming the Homeless Advisory Committee. And now I feel like that this one individual will be the main coordinator in shepherding and moving forward these various efforts. And I'm very supportive of this. I would like to see the coming back and talking about the effectiveness of the various programs. And I'm sure Kingsview probably has some of those numbers. I know that the Project Homeless Connect events that take place throughout the county have had some study behind effects of their events. So bringing some of those different numbers to come to the board with a presentation will help to illustrate how we are having some impact and some effect. But still, I still think that there's the number 666 individuals. Boy, I sure feel like there's more than that in the county, but who am I? I'm not a homeless expert to second guess the numbers, but that seems awful low for what we have in the county. But that's all my comment.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Sitting on the homeless task force, a lot of this information, is not new to me. One of the things that I personally have done, and Pete, you mentioned about the housing issue, it is a big issue. If we could get more folks to offer their housing, and again, I'm going to say this every time, not to blow my own horn, but I do have a rental unit that once it becomes vacant, I will be offering it to, as supportive housing, county council. So anybody else out there who has that, maybe has multiple properties or has some, they can look into that. It sounds like a system that's a good system. You get, it's pretty much guaranteed because whether it's CSED or Family Service or whoever's offering the vouchers, they are actually the ones who are renting the unit from you. So I like to get that out there. I found it interesting. I encourage folks to look up on the California Institute of Local Government's website. You can find the task force report. It's very informative. It talks about what other communities are doing. And as I said, we watched the webinar the other day, and I found it very interesting that Supervisor Villegas from Yolo County was one of the co-chairs, and he talked about he served for 14 years prior to being a county supervisor as a city council person, and as a city council person, he always thought it's a county issue. And of course, that's not always the case, and I'm glad that you have this, I call it a comprehensive overview, and I think it will be important for other folks to get a taste of what the county is actually doing, and we're doing quite a bit. But it's not just the county, it's not just the city, it's not just a nonprofit or a faith base, it's everybody working together. I think homelessness right now is probably foremost on people's minds, as opposed, it used to be gangs and whatnot, and that's still a very important issue to deal with. But I think if you were to ask anybody on the street what's bothering you today in your community, I think it would be homelessness. So thanks for the report, and we'll carry on with it.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Crocker?
Yes, I appreciate I would echo the comments of the comprehensiveness of this report. Putting numbers to the issue, I think it really is eye-opening. As for me in particular, I appreciate the work that Supervisor Shucklian is doing on the task force representing the county. I think there were some interesting points as far as even though there may not be very many in unincorporated areas, it still definitely affects the entire county. And considering that Tulare County, we have a little over 1% of the state's population, I guess the positive thing is that we're only represent about 0.5% of the homeless population in California. But just based on the numbers, the dollars that were presented in the packet, over the last 2 fiscal years and the current, we've spent $9.3 million in these efforts. So I think that's important to note, because that shows that it shows me that we are committed and that we are an active player in this. And this just goes a step further. Even though that we have a smaller population in the unincorporated areas, we want to collaborate with our cities to make sure that we are getting the resources to where it's needed, that we're working together. I know that's something that I'm always interested in, how we can work with all of our partners, whether it's neighboring counties or cities within our area, special districts, et cetera. So I appreciate the information. It's very eye-opening.
Supervisor Rennes?
Yeah, Jason, thanks for the report. Very educational. I think this group home concept that you're talking about for the mentally ill, that's a good concept, but I think that could be a good concept for the total program, is to let people actually run it like a business and maybe have a home they can house 20 people in until they get back on their feet. But that might be a concept that would be more in line with managing the money, would be to have more of those facilities throughout Porterville, Isaiah, Tulare, to house these people until they can get back on their feet. And it might be a good concept to save a lot of dollars and help a lot of people. So that would be my input on this to the future. Because we have places to treat people for alcohol and drugs, and they house a lot of people. We have the mentally retarded kids that are in homes, and you're talking about the mentally ill in these homes. I think it could be a concept for the whole program. Thank you. Thank you for the...
Jason, thank you very much for the report. And, I know that we're dealing here a little bit differently than the state perspective of building affordable housing. That's a separate matter. But I do note that I'm trying to remember which one of the northern counties put in a village of tough shed type structures. And I know they had to actually get... Yuba County, they actually had to get special dispensation from the state of California because they didn't want that to happen because of an insistence on energy efficiency homes. And I said, there's a difference between living under a bridge and living in a LEED certified house, right? And we need to think about that for people, what was most interesting was I reviewed that. There was a video clip of that from CSAC, and if you haven't seen that, it's really eye-opening because the people who were living in these were very excited about it. Because it was superior, and then they were getting the services that our county can provide, mental health services and alcohol services and different things that they could provide services for. And now they had a place that they were safe and it was clean. And again, they weren't having to live out underneath a bridge someplace or under a tree. So I don't know how that ties into this, but it seems like we ought to be looking at all avenues of how we can help folks like this. And so. Again, appreciate the presentation.
Mr. Chair, I do know that, everyone is very committed, the cities, the counties, to try to really wrestle with this concept. And the point of our presentation today was really to talk about, if we didn't have these preventative programs within the agency, our problem would be much larger. And that unfortunately what we see, at the river or at the freeway is what people associate with homeless, but there's a lot more people than that who are at risk and who are being prevented from being homeless. And I just wanted that message to be here today. And as we appoint this individual to this position, if it's approved today, that will be one of their jobs, is to study the effectiveness of programs, to look at how we can better streamline and reduce overhead within the agency, and do all of those types of things so that we can get more services out of the limited dollars that we do receive. So I appreciate your time today.
All right, entertain a motion. Anything from the public on this matter? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll move back to the board. Motion by Supervisor Ennis, seconded by Supervisor Shuckman. Please cast your votes. Votes are unanimous. Take up item number 21 now, request from the Resource Management Agency to receive a presentation pertaining to the federal opportunity zones, provide direction to staff regarding recommended census tracts. Morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? Before you start, Mike, Bob, hold on. I didn't see you there. You must have been behind somebody. Vice, I was looking for you. We can give you Kyler's little leprechaun thing, but I want to thank you for being here. Vice Mayor Link from the city of Visalia is here and heard everything, and he's somebody who knows what the county does and that it does take a partnership with the homelessness. So thank you for being here, Bob. All right.
And Mike, before you begin, I think the sheriff has a number, and they may be just hanging around to give it to us. If they could just do that quickly, so we don't keep them in any longer than they need to be here. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisor Crocker, to answer your question, $6,400 annual maintenance for IA Pro, and for Blue Teams $5,000, total of $11,400, which will be absorbed in the sheriff's operating budget.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Michael, you're up. Without further ado, for interruption.
Thank you. Today, for your consideration, I just wanted to bring something forward regarding the opportunity zones. I don't have a PowerPoint. I do have an interactive map that I'm going to kind of walk through. I gave you a roster of eligible tracks. Just as a little bit of a backup, the tax bill that was passed in December of last year had a piece of it which included the opportunity zones, which allows in qualifying census tracts to have reinvestment into those communities and an ability to defer or eliminate capital gains. So it's a way of trying to get investment into some disadvantaged communities. With that being said, there's about 1/4% of eligible tracts are able to be nominated to the feds for establishing this opportunity zones. So with that, the governor has ability to designate 879 tracts in Tulare County, and throughout the state, and there's 3,500 eligible tracts. So only about 1/4 of the eligible tracts will actually be nominated. Then also, the governor also has decided that he wants to make sure that all counties participate in this. So they've kind of spread it amongst all of the counties to make it an equal game on that end of it. So as far as the opportunity fund, still the details about the opportunity funds themselves aren't finalized yet, but we are on a time crunch on this because the governor requires comments back by this Thursday. So about 48 hours from now, the comments have to be back on their proposals, and then a week later, the governor has to submit to the federal government the final recommendations for the state. So that's why we've got this real quick turnaround. So with that, go ahead and okay, so the governors has made recommendations for particular tracts, and they submitted them out a couple weeks ago. The green tracts are the tracts that are being proposed. Now, the unincorporated area of Tulare County, there is proposals for this tract here, which is 3.02, which covers the Traver and London area up there. Then also over here is the Cutler track, which represents Cutler down south towards Yentum. Doesn't quite get to Seville because it's on the north side of the road for Seville, so it doesn't really hit that. Then further south, the Pixley track here. Then this one is the track 43, which includes the Allensworth, Alpaw, all the surrounding area around Early Mart, as well as extending all the way out to Rich Grove. So and then Early Mart proper those are the 5 tracks that the governor has recommended to the county as being included. Now, what they're looking for is comments back if those are in support of those or potentially alternatives or additions. But on the conference call with the state last week, they were very matter of fact that don't if you're trying to add, you have to have a lot of justification. They're really not looking for adding. What they're looking for is if you suggest an alternative, an exchange. Take this one out and put this one in instead. I think at that level, they would probably be very open to the local jurisdiction saying, you're close, but we'd rather have this one than that one. With that said, I'm sorry, I'm battling a cold. With that said, staff would recommend a switch out of taking out Cutler, this one, and putting in a Rossi instead. The justification on that is that currently staff's working with some developers in the Rossi area. The way this line draws straight across, all of that undeveloped area between Cutler and Rossi falls within the Rossi census tract. So there's a lot more opportunity for development, I believe, in the Rossi tract as opposed to the Cutler. So that would be a staff recommendation to exchange those two out. The other site that really would like to prioritize would be the Goshen tract, which is this tract here. Covers all of Goshen, as well as some of the area in the ultimate build-out for the Visalia Industrial Park. That would be a priority, I think, on staff now. To get to there, if we're doing an exchange, it's tough to say what we would potentially give up. And this is a tough call, but I would, looking at the status, I would think about giving up the Early Mart one, and the reason being, the Early Mart tract doesn't extend over all of Early Mart. There's still the development of like the White River Plaza, proposed hotel, and a lot of residential development all lies north of the Early Mart tract. So the real development interest currently is in this area here, which would fall in tract 43, the Alpine. So if you're looking at considering an exchange, I would consider that one to be the option, because we want to keep Pixley because of all the Pixley development opportunity along the 99. So if that was just the exchanges, that would be staff's recommendation. The alternative would to say keep Early Mart and ask for an addition of the Goshen one. So that's really where we're at with that. Now, countywide, I'm just going to talk a little bit because there's a lot of changes by the cities probably that will be proposed. In Dinuba, as you can see the census tract here, Dinuba is probably going to be recommending switching out to this one here instead. And they're also looking at potentially asking for a recommendation to add one, which would be this tract here, which is great because it covers Sultana, covers Delft, it covers Ivory, Port of Ivory. So that would be great if they decide to move on that way. So that's what looking at potentially. And again, I'm not speaking for them. That's just what the idea is thinking about. I know Visalia is going to make a move or two. I don't know the particulars on that one. In Farmersville, the recommendation is this tract here in Farmersville actually is the southern part of it. They would prefer it's probably more opportune for them to go to this one, which is from the mid up to the 198. But if they do that, which would be great for the county again, because it would bring in all of this all the way up to Lemon Cove and surrounding Exeter to some industrial areas down here. So that would be the recommendation that Farmersville is looking at. And then down in Porter, I do not know what Lindsay's going to be doing, do not know what City of Tulare will or will not do. One recommendation was switching this one out for this track here because it gets more down towards the industrial area on the 99. So that would also add a lot more in unincorporated area. Porterville has 4 tracks, and the one idea, I know they want to get this track in with their industrial park by the airport. So they'll probably be giving up one of these. More likely, this is the developmental center. For some reason, that's part in there, so that will probably switch out for that. So that's kind of giving you just an update on what's going on, where that is. Then every city has at least one zone with the exception of Woodlake. So I know that there's some talk in the EDC about trying to get Woodlake put in, and that's basically one, it would be the one track here. Now, whether they're looking at who to give up, it kind of would focus on is the county willing to give up, is Porterville willing to give up one, or is it just going to be a recommendation to add Woodlake and put the justification there? So those are kind of the variables that are out there. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, maybe ask direction regarding those exchanges that I mentioned earlier about Cutler and Rossi flipping, and then taking Early Mart out and exchanging that for the Goshen one, and then where we look at on Wood Lake. So
I had a question for you, Mike. What is the time frame of this designation?
I know that as far as length of time,
Yes.
I do not know whether there's a sunset date on this at all.
I thought it was 10 years.
It's 10
From what I
years.
saw.
Paul Sedano's here, and I know that he might have that detail on that. I
'Cause
know
I was
there is a
thinking, what-
10-year. There is a 10-year something. I didn't know whether it's sunset or whether there's a look back, or if that's a holding period for.
Okay.
One of the
A
A holding
1031.
period for investments have
Yeah.
to be held for over 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
'cause one of the issues in my mind is, from prioritization would be what's ready to move. In other words, so if we're looking at this as something that's down the road, as opposed to something that could be utilized more effectively in a sooner fashion, let's put our emphasis there because that could generate a return on investment very quickly and mean jobs and so forth. I know both Supervisor Vanderpool and myself were contacted by a council member, former mayor from Wood Lake, about supporting them, and I certainly would do that just from the standpoint that they have existing businesses, and again, where you have businesses that are kind of wanting to expand, this is the kind of catalyst that could make a huge difference in terms of providing additional employment and jobs. But how to get there? So it sounds like our immediate ability is to deal with within the unincorporated areas. We've got those areas that are designated. We have power, if you will, to sort of substitute within our own jurisdiction. We don't have power to substitute within cities. They would have that. That would be to them, I take it. But then when you have a case like Wood Lake where they have none, so it's not like they can adjust anything. They don't even have one to adjust. I certainly would want to try to support Wood Lake. How that would be done, I'm not sure how we get there. But perhaps Mr. Vanderwell.
Yeah, I thought about it as you were giving your presentation, and in terms of your recommendations, I mean, Steve's probably going to know more than I will on the Cutler or Rossi switch out, but that seems like that makes sense. And on the Early Mart and Goshen switch out, since Early Mart's included already, the majority of the development area of Early Mart is included in the Alpha Allensworth Richgrove tract. That I would be fine making the switch to include Goshen because Goshen is a very, very ripe economic opportunity. And you mentioned, I think it was Dinuba that you had said was considering requesting an additional designation.
Right.
I would talk to Dinuba and say, let's focus our effort as a county and not ask for an additional that could benefit Dinuba, but let's put one additional towards Wood Lake. And if the whole county gets behind it, right now every city, like you said, has something. They get some benefit from this designation. The only one that doesn't is Wood Lake. So I think if all 8 cities and the county rallied behind Wood Lake getting an addition and worked within the confines that were outlined on that conference call of no new designations, only switching out, but if there is a new designation, make sure that you really can justify it. I think you can really justify it with all 7 cities who have a designation, plus the county coming together, rallying behind Wood Lake to just get one designation, even though it would likely be to the benefit of the new marijuana businesses that are going there. It's still going to benefit Wood Lake and benefit the whole economy in general. So I think that's a good strategy we could look towards.
Other comments or questions? I think that's a good idea. Mr. Crocker?
Yeah, I'm supportive of your recommendation as far as the 2 switch outs. I actually was thinking about going a little bit different direction. If Dinuba is considering adding a census tract, I guess my question is, does that hurt the switch if we ask? I mean, knowing that they probably aren't going to add, but if we do add another census tract, does that hurt what we're already asking for? Or it's just very unlikely that it's not going to happen?
It's probably unlikely. I don't know that it would hurt. I think the big thing is to try to have a collaborative effort at the region, the county level, so that we're not going opposed to each other. Saying right now, currently, a lot of jurisdictions, they're battling amongst themselves for a small piece of the pie, and we want to come with a uniform recommendation. And I think that'll have a lot more strength. And exchanges, I think, I just get the feeling that they're going to leave that to the local. If you've already got the governor saying, here's your 4, and you want to switch them to revise a couple based on your local knowledge, I don't think that they're going to be too opposed to that. But a massive just add, I don't think that's going to be successful.
Well, I like the idea of Terabella. I mean, Terabella, there's been a tremendous amount of growth with Porterville Citrus, with Set and Pistachios, with Sierra Forest products. I mean, you know, if they ever, you know, if something changes there with forest management, they've had a lot of opportunities and growth, and I don't know if that really applies for future expansion as far as what they're doing. But I know that they're working closely with RMA, with Porterville Citrus, and with Seton in particular. And I drove by last week, and they're going gangbusters. They're continuing to build out. So if you think that's applicable, then I would be supportive of having them added to the wish list.
Yeah, certainly as this moves forward too, that doesn't necessarily mean that in the future additional ones could be added as this program moves forward. But right now we're on the time crunch with that, and you make hard choices. I don't know that this would benefit, this investment trust is people trying to roll over capital gains and put some investment into the disadvantaged. I don't know how necessarily individual companies. You're looking at some other investment dollars. There'd be lots more than just industrial, I believe, that the potential could come out of this. Something where there's investments in real estate type of developments that often change ownership over the course of time, and that's where you're drawing your money back out. You know, as an individual company, they're going strong. In Terabella, they're going gangbusters. We support them wholeheartedly, but I think at this point in time, it probably better suited in the other areas.
For the comments, I also agree with your suggestions about switching out Rosalie for Cutler, and I think the Goshen for Early Mart is another good exchange. I'm very supportive of trying to assist Woodlake any way we can. I think there's a good equity argument to be made there to the state. You've given one to every city and into the county, but you've left one out, whether that was inadvertent or what. But this is heavily qualifies as a disadvantaged community. They're looking for help. And the thing is, they've got businesses there, notwithstanding the comment made by my colleague. I mean, was pointed out there is a couple of pretty good size businesses in town that are U.S. Tower and a steel company that employ a number of people, and this could be the kind of catalyst that would get them to expand even more so. And he expressed to me that they are wanting to expand. So whatever we can do to assist Woodlake, and I think the concept that Pete had, which would be trying to get the whole county behind that effort, and perhaps get Dyneema to rein in their request. Everybody's got their desires, of course, but if we could all be united about that one particular place, I think that would be a good way to handle that. I don't know, did the governor hand out every piece of it, or did he hold some back, do you know, in terms of his numbers? Or
I would think any good manager would hold back something, but that's not necessarily true. That's just, I would think there's a few statewide available.
And there may be some that can't even use them. I mean, that's the other thing. I don't know, but we sometimes run into that too. Okay, so that's direction to you.
Public comment.
Any public comment on this matter? Yes, Paul. Thank you for being here today.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just to address a couple of questions, or I should step back and say the EDC has taken an effort to kind of lead this process over the last 30 or 40 days that it's been out. To the point of cooperation, the EDC board actually submitted without because the governor's office didn't ask for a list, but we submitted a list on February 28th that included 35 census districts, and 16 made that list. In a call we had last week with all the cities, we agreed to some framework. Among that framework was geographic diversity. So it is the priority of all the jurisdictions and of the EDC to ensure that in the final process that every city is represented in the designation. The Dyneema request, just for clarification, is simply a request to the EDC to consider putting that on the addition list. At this point, the only ones that would be on that addition list would be the city of Woodlake and then the city of Exeter's southern portion, which is in incorporated area. Those are the only two that actually would be considered on the list. Dinuba's request was if we were able to expand it. To the question of the time period, it is 10 years, and it is definitely a program that you want to look at what's ready to move. And so that's why our focus has been on the industrial areas and the ready-to-go job-producing communities. Lastly, there is a special city council meeting in Porterville this evening, and they are reviewing this item, and they're considering the request from Woodlake. So there may be the possibility that Woodlake gets in with the final list that we're submitting to the state, and that the Exeter track would be the only one that we request as the addition. And I did confirm with several of the folks we've been working with up in Sacramento over the last several days that there are a few that have not been designated. So yeah, so I think that the conversations we've had throughout the county and the conversations we had in Sacramento, the one thing that one of the staff up there told me is that no one else has gotten to the level where we're at here in Tulare County, where we're discussing, how to work together, how to bridge and make sure that everybody's cooperative. And lastly, I'll leave you with just this point. In the authorization that the EDC board gave to staff to help coordinate this, they also authorized us to take $107,000 from our business incentive fund and use that as seed money for the establishment of an opportunity fund that would seek to make investments in these census tracts. So again, the EDC is not waiting for what if money comes in, where would it be directed? We're willing to step up and put money into that to make sure that projects get stimulated. So,
thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Anybody else wish to address the board? All right, so do you need a motion? This is a request for regarding direction, so you have direction?
I think I have the direction.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, appreciate it. Take us to item number 22, a request from the County Administrative Office to direct revisions to be made to the Tulare County Strategic Business Plan update and our strategic management system.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The matter before you will be a brief presentation with respect to suggested revisions to the Strategic Business Plan update of 2016-2020. In terms of background, in December 2016, Chairman Mike Ennis, during the State of the County, had requested that this office provide a review and an update of the county strategic business plan. That was accomplished with a presentation in December of 2016, and after discussion, the board unanimously approved the requested update. That update is set forth on pages 8 and 9 of Attachment C, which is the proposed revised plan. The second item is that in January 2017, two newly elected supervisors became members of the board, Vice Chair Crocker and Supervisor Shucklian. As such, the update was presented to the Strategic Finance Committee to obtain any further comments or suggestions regarding the update and to request that the update be presented again to this board. As a result of the committee's process, revisions were suggested. They are presented today, and on slide 4, the specific revisions are set forth. Again, very briefly, there are a number of key aspects of strategic management. First, the organizational end goals should be in budgetary alignment. In part, the mission is to effectively deliver public service and that the County of Tulare is open for business. And what this means is that when departments come forward, they should try to establish a relationship, a nexus, a connection between the monetary request and the goals that are proposed to be implemented as part of the county's mission. The second aspect is a project management concept in terms of there should be proactive and fourth quarter thinking so that there is an end game focus. That means that once a project is proposed, there should be a clear line of sight with regard to its completion date and a budget that is responsibly set. Thirdly, and importantly, there should be public value. That is, public value should be retained, created, increased, and captured as part of a business model which is capable of measurable performance. Some examples of public value include the good work that is being done with regard to the capital projects program in terms of the criminal justice projects, space planning, and major repairs. In addition, the infrastructure projects that are being furthered, such as roads, transit, water, wastewater, and parks. Thirdly, measurable performance can be provided in terms of economic development by demonstrating an increase in jobs, an increase in income, as well as an increase in business and real estate equity value. Another concept is team-based and cross-functional collaboration. This approach leads to greater efficiency and effectiveness through subject matter expertise of various team members. Essentially, through an interdisciplinary approach, it is believed and established that greater performance can occur within timeliness as well as within budget. Another aspect is vetting, monitoring, and progress reporting, which leads to promoting transparency. And during the past several years, this board is well advised in terms of the numerous presentations with regard to being given updates, a presentation of options, discussion, and recommendations. And today is another example of how a number of departments have come forward with excellent presentations to bring you up to date to important issues or regarding important issues and requesting your direction. In addition, as a companion to the team-based approach, the individual approach should be emphasized, and that is through organizational development and employee empowerment. That is through training, coaching, encouragement, so that the individual employee who works for the county finds increased meaning in the work, and that leads to motivation and increased performance. The next to the final aspect is fiscal management, which is very important in terms of ensuring that the public dollars that are generated to the county are spent in a prudent manner. And that is done through budgetary sustainability and economic development. Sustainability means that when budget requests are coming forward, the departments think them through and try to look for revenue or look for how operational efficiencies can be maintained so that prudent fiscal management can be achieved. With regard to economic development, from a socioeconomic perspective, this is good on a regional level because this brings about the overarching philosophy that the rising tide will lift all boats. And finally, evaluation. Evaluation of plans, programs, and projects such that there is an after-action review to determine what was done right, what were the strengths of the implementation experience, and then what were the challenges, and how best can we improve on not experiencing those challenges again and moving the projects faster and more effectively. With that background in mind, the proposed revisions are set forth as follows. Quote, in March 2018, the Board of Supervisors revised the update by clarifying that the business model should be implemented if feasible. Although it may not be feasible for every agency or department within county government to pursue a business model by generating new or expanded revenue, every agency or department should operate prudently within a framework of budgetary sustainability when proposing the addition of structural, that is, ongoing expenses or proposing substantial one-time costs. That is, expenditure growth at the budgetary level should be reasonably affordable over time and financially feasible. And this language is set forth in the number of references below. With the final comment, let me say this. This approach is designed to accomplish three goals. First, I believe it's the right thing to do in terms that will promote responsible budgeting and a responsible expenditure of public funds. Secondly, as this board knows very well, in the next decade, there will be a number of fiscal challenges. So what we do today will have a material effect on how we are able to effectively embrace tomorrow. And finally, with the recent direction of the Board of Supervisors to move forward with pension obligation bonds in the amount of $250 million, we have been engaging financial advisors and legal counsel who have said to us, the underwriting community and the investment market will want to know not only how well you are doing, but you must disclose what are your challenges and what plan do you have in place in order to deal with those challenges, because they will want to know that you will have an income stream not only today but in the future in order to retire that debt. With that in mind, may I respectfully request that this board direct that revisions be made to the Tulare County Strategic Business Plan Update and Strategic Management System between 2016 and 2020. Thank you.
Mike, any questions?
Thank you,
comments?
Mr. Spada. I appreciate you bringing that forward, and very, very important that we continue to run this county as a business. All the aspects that you brought forward today, any successful business out there, to stay successful, has to use those concepts. And I think that it's, the county is heading in the right direction. Appreciate you bringing that forward.
Questions or comments? Public comments? Entertain a motion?
I appreciate the presentation and the opportunity to make some edits. I think that the intent is still there, but knowing that we have a few departments where it probably doesn't make sense that this just adds a little bit of clarity, even though I don't think the practice was ever ill-intended as far as for the other departments. I kind of on a somewhat unrelated note, but as we were discussing economic development and in light of the conversation regarding homelessness earlier, I think it would be beneficial to see the total spend that we've had on economic development and the effectiveness of it, and how well we're doing. If a future board meeting we can overview and do that. I know we do that from time to time, but I would be interested to see an update as far as what we're doing on that.
Very good. Thank you. If I may suggest, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chairman, that we request that RMA look at the 3 performance measures and begin working on a quantitative determination. They can bring that report back.
Very good. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move for approval of this update, and thank Mr. Spada for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Second on that.
Okay. All, please cast your votes. Motion was made by Supervisor Vanderpool, second by Supervisor Ennis, and the vote is unanimous. That concludes our open session today. Do we have need for closed session today, Council?
Chairman, we do not.
Do we?
All right. Very good. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here today.